One man looked into the sky and proved the universe was not what we were told. With a simple telescope, he challenged centuries of belief, the authority of the church, and humanity's place in creation. This is the story of Galileo Galilei, the man who dared to say that Earth was not the center of everything, and paid the price for it. What began as simple observation became a direct threat to power, tradition, and faith. And once the universe was put on trial, there was no turning back. Galileo Galilei was born in 1564 in Pisa, Italy, into a world where the universe was already understood. For centuries, people believed Earth stood still at the center of creation, while the sun, planets, and stars revolved around it in perfect circles. This was not just science, it was philosophy, theology, order itself. To question it was to question authority. Galileo's father, Vincenzo, was a musician and thinker who distrusted blind tradition. From him, Galileo learned an early lesson. Truth is not guaranteed by age or power. It must be tested. Galileo initially studied medicine, but numbers and motion fascinated him more than anatomy. He abandoned medicine for mathematics, a risky move, but one that defined his life. From the beginning, Galileo was not interested in what people believed. He wanted to know how things actually worked. As a young professor, Galileo began questioning Aristotle, the intellectual giant whose teachings dominated European thought. Aristotle claimed heavier objects fell faster than lighter ones. Galileo tested it. Legend says he dropped balls from the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Whether or not that moment happened exactly as told, the truth remains. Galileo proved motion followed measurable laws, not ancient authority. This was radical. Galileo argued that nature spoke in the language of mathematics, and that anyone could read it if they observed carefully enough. He believed experiments mattered more than reputation. Quietly, he was laying the foundations of modern science. In 1609, Galileo heard of a strange new device from the Netherlands, a telescope. He immediately understood its potential. Within days, he built his own version, then improved it again and again, pushing its magnification far beyond anything seen before. He did not treat the telescope as a novelty. He treated it as a weapon against ignorance. Night after night, Galileo climbed rooftops and towers, carefully aiming his telescope at the heavens. What he saw shocked him. The moon was not a perfect sphere, as Aristotle claimed, but a rough world of mountains and shadows. This alone was dangerous. It suggested the heavens were made of the same imperfect matter as Earth. Then Galileo turned his lens toward Jupiter. He observed 4 small lights moving around the planet. At first, he thought they were stars, but over several nights, their pattern revealed the truth. They were moons orbiting Jupiter. This was revolutionary. It proved that not everything revolved around Earth. Even more devastating was Venus. Galileo observed that Venus showed phases, just like the moon. This could only be explained if Venus orbited the Sun. The geocentric model could not survive this observation. Galileo published his discoveries in Sidereus Nuncius, the starry messenger. Europe exploded with fascination. Scholars rushed to build telescopes. Princes and cardinals demanded demonstrations. But with fame came fear. Galileo had not just improved astronomy, he had destabilized the universe. The implications were explosive. If Earth moved, then humanity was not at the center of creation. And if Scripture seemed to contradict observation, which one should yield? Galileo did not attack religion. He argued that the Bible taught how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go. But his enemies framed him differently. In 1616, the Catholic Church warned Galileo not to promote heliocentrism as fact. He obeyed, publicly. Privately, he waited. In 1632, Galileo published dialogue concerning the two chief world systems. On the surface, it presented a neutral debate between Earth-centered and Sun-centered models. In reality, the heliocentric argument crushed the other side. Worse still, the defender of the old system was portrayed as foolish, and his arguments resembled those of the Pope himself. This was not just science anymore. It was politics. Galileo was summoned to Rome. In 1633, Galileo was summoned to Rome to face the Inquisition. He was nearly 70 years old. His health was failing. His allies were silent. The charge against him was not simply that he believed Earth moved. It was that he taught others to trust observation over authority. To the Church, this was far more dangerous than any telescope. Galileo was interrogated repeatedly. He was reminded that Giordano Bruno had been burned at the stake only decades earlier. The threat was clear, even if unspoken. The Inquisition demanded obedience, not debate. Galileo tried to defend himself by arguing that his book merely discussed possibilities, not facts. But the evidence was overwhelming. His writings favored heliocentrism too clearly. His enemies had waited patiently, and now they struck. Under threat of torture, Galileo recanted. He publicly denied what his own eyes had proven. The sentence was severe but symbolic: life under house arrest. His books were banned. His voice was silenced. The Church believed the problem was solved, but truth does not disappear when spoken quietly. Confined to his home, Galileo went blind, but even in darkness, he continued thinking. He wrote his final work on motion and mechanics, a book that would later guide Isaac Newton. His ideas outlived the verdict against him. Long after Galileo's death in 1642, the Church slowly changed its stance. Centuries later, it formally acknowledged its error. The universe Galileo revealed never went away. Galileo died in 1642, blind and confined, but intellectually undefeated. His final work, written under house arrest, laid the foundations of classical mechanics. Isaac Newton would later build directly upon Galileo's ideas, transforming them into the laws that governed physics for centuries. Galileo's real legacy, however, was not a formula or discovery. It was a method. He demonstrated that knowledge must be tested, measured, and questioned, even when it contradicts powerful institutions. Modern science exists because Galileo insisted that nature answers to observation, not authority. Space exploration, physics, engineering, and technology all trace their roots back to this shift in thinking. When the Catholic Church officially acknowledged its error centuries later, it was not just correcting a historical mistake. It was admitting that Galileo had been right all along. He showed humanity something terrifying and liberating at the same time. The universe does not revolve around us, but we are free to understand it. Galileo Galilei did not conquer lands or command armies. He did something far more dangerous. He changed humanity's position in the universe and proved that truth does not need permission to exist. Subscribe to history. Scribe for more stories about the people who challenged the world and changed it forever.